eye of Hurricane Ivan has reached land. Right now it is over Gulf Shores, Alabama. A big band of storms, one of the strongest bands in the system now, reaching Pensacola, Florida, where Chris Lawrence is, and we'll be getting back to him in just a few minutes. But quickly, we're going to check in with David Mattingly, who's in Panama City. We also, of course, have Anderson and Rob back with us from Mobile. And first, let's get an update with you, David, on what's going on in Panama City.
Ivan definitely kicking it up a notch. We are told the authorities are now closing the 3 beaches to Panama City Beach. Those bridges are always set to be closed when you reach a maximum sustained wind of 55 miles per hour. The bridges are very high to allow for seagoing traffic underneath, so when the winds get up to 55 miles per hour, they decided that's the point where it's unsafe for any kind of vehicle to go over them, so they are now in the process of closing those. The wind has been picking up steadily as this storm has been coming ashore, and we have been getting some gusts well in excess of 60 miles an hour, so some gusts here approaching hurricane strength force. Now, consider we are over 100 miles away from where the eye of Ivan is making landfall. Look at all this rain, look at all this wind, and look at this surf that continues to pound in here. We're watching a beach erosion event going on with this storm. You see how frothy all of this water is. It's being whipped up by this wind as it comes down the beach here. And we went through a high tide sequence, and at the time you could not see any of the beach, but now the waves are able to recede some. You can see some of the beach here, but as we stand out here, we continue to see debris coming down the beach. We continue to see beach erosion occurring. We see problems in some of the dunes. Some of the fencing around the dunes has been ripped away, so the waves have been getting up and getting into the dunes where the vegetation has been planted. So that is eating away there. This all started early yesterday afternoon with a squall line coming in full of tornadoes, 2 of them touching down, killing 2 people, doing a wide area of damage. 200 homes, we're told, have been, they've figured that 200 homes have been damaged. There are hundreds of people in shelters tonight. They originally started with 2 shelters in Bay County. They are now opening up another to accommodate the people who are coming in. So again, this turning out to be the tough night that they were expecting. Again, in the morning, everyone is going to be looking at this beach to see what's left of it, because this is the economic future of the city right here, and it has been taking a pounding. And you can just see behind me how the wind is still continuing to whip the water there. It just makes it so frothy. Sometimes when the waves hit up here, it looks like there's a snowfall going on, Catherine, with all of the sea foam that is briefly in the air, but nothing like that to show you at this moment, but it is quite a sight to see when it does happen.
David, as you know, there's a litany of condominium complexes all the way down the coast there in Panama City. I know that the power is out there, but do you think any of those condominiums and the structures there along the beach have suffered extensive damage?
We haven't seen any extensive damage. Most of the condos that are going up around here are very well constructed. There were new building codes enacted after Hurricane Andrew. So when they lost some of the buildings here back during Hurricane Opal in 1995, they had those new building codes. Any new buildings that went up were set to withstand much bigger winds. Some of that sea foam flying around again. They were able to withstand much stronger winds, and they were able to withstand much stronger weather events like we're seeing right now. Catherine?
All right, David. Stay clear of the sea foam. All right, let's check back in with Anderson and Rob in Mobile. And gentlemen, have the winds picked up, calmed down? I know we've seen the winds have dropped significantly in Gulf Shores where the eye of the storm is now. How about you?
Yeah, it certainly doesn't feel like the winds have dropped anything. If anything, they seem to be blowing still pretty hard. But that's really not a big surprise. I mean, you're not anticipating seeing some big eye coming over here. You're not anticipating things calming down much here.
No, what I'm anticipating is that lamp up there to come flying off at some point. So I'm a little nervous about you being such a cowboy. But I anticipate it getting worse before. I hate saying that. Such a cliche. It's going to get worse before it gets better, but that's the truth here. The only good news that we have is that, you know, we're going to be on the western side of the eye wall. So the storm surge shouldn't be as bad, but we're going to get a piece of that eye wall, no doubt about it. And winds around that corner easily blowing 80 miles an hour, possibly gusting higher than that, possibly to 100, and they'll get stronger out of the northeast and then eventually north as we go through the next 2 hours.
Well, let's
And
talk
Rob,
about the timeline. If we, yeah, Catherine.
I just want to remind everyone that it is now a Category 3 hurricane.
Yeah, although, you know, what made it a Category 3 was only a drop of 5 miles per hour, so it's not like we're talking about a huge, you know, I can tell you 5 miles per hour is nothing.
Yeah. Just go out and play, you know, Category 3.
Exactly. Yeah, believe me, it feels just as bad as it did a second ago when it was a Category 4. I got to ask you, though, Rob, on the other end of that eye wall, how long are we talking about still having these high winds?
Well, it obviously depends on where you are, but Gary Tuckman right now in Gulf Shores, I mean, he's in the eye itself, which it's got to be some cool experience. I'm hoping we get a piece of that later on today. But as the backside comes through, he'll start to get the southerly and then westerly winds too on the backside of that. So he'll be out of he'll be out of the calm here in the next hour, and then he'll be back into the stuff for about 2 or 3 hours, and then he'll be out of it, I'm thinking, pretty rapidly. It's moving a lot faster than Francis did. Francis kind of festered over Florida, so it moved really slowly. On top of that, it kept picking up moisture from the Atlantic and from the Gulf of Mexico. This one should get in and get out fairly rapidly, and then it'll stall over the Appalachians. This thing's going to be a pain in the neck for a lot of folks, Anderson, even beyond Mobile Bay, up across the mountains of Alabama, Georgia, and then through the Carolinas. We're talking about big flooding issues the next couple of days.
I'm also curious to know, Rob, I mean, you've studied these things, you've been a meteorologist for a long time, but really this is the first time you've been in one of these storms. How is it different actually being here, actually feeling it yourself, than being in the studio?
Well, you know, you try not to think about, while you're out here, the damage that it's doing and the property that folks have that is being damaged, but you can't help but be excited. I mean, you study these things, you spend a lot of your career cooped up in a windowless studio telling people not to go into these things, but you have to kind of come to experience. It's a humiliating experience, but it's also fascinating at the same time. And when we go look at the damage tomorrow, the next couple of days, Anderson, you've been through one of these. Really, video doesn't really capture it. When you're there in person, you see how homes are destroyed. Yeah. It really brings it home.
Yeah, Catherine, it's interesting because, I mean, it's sort of intellectually, you know, you can hear, 135-mile-an-hour winds, you know, you can see it on paper, you can see it on TV. But until you sort of stood in the storm, you know, and felt a wind gust that could pick you up and throw you down, you know, all the numbers in your head, it doesn't mean anything until you're sort of wet standing here. It really brings it home.
And you get a feeling for that.
We overestimate what the winds are. I mean, just a few hours ago, we're thinking, well, you know, it's blowing 70, 80 miles an hour. And I checked our little wind gauge, didn't believe that. Checked the odds at the airport, and the Mobile airport wasn't reporting anything higher than 50. So it always feels a lot worse than it actually is. And I'm not going beyond that little mark right there.
Nothing like a little sand and salt water in your face to wake you up. All right, stay with us, guys. We're going to bring in Colette Bames. She's with the Baldwin County Emergency Management Office to give us an update on what the situation there with the emergency services. Can you hear me?
Hi, yes.
What is the situation? Have you had any reports of any crisis situation there in your county?
Well, we're experiencing hurricane force winds now for going on 3 hours or so. We think we're just about at the eye wall. So we're hoping that we're halfway through.
Of course, a lot of people want to know about the report that Gary Tuckman gave us just a few moments ago about a woman who, and they decided to wait this storm out in their home, has gone into labor. Can you tell us what the situation is with her?
Yes, the EMS folks got a call here from a lady who thought she was going into labor. It's not quite time for that yet, so obviously that added to her anxiety. The National Guard folks transported her, went to pick her up with the medics, and were en route to North Baldwin Hospital, which is in Bay Minette. They had some trouble with their vehicle, got stranded, so another Guard unit went out, got them out of their trouble, and at that point the medics determined that they needed to come to our office instead of continuing to the hospital.
Is she there now?
She is there now. In addition, they had another gentleman who was having chest pains. I'm actually not sure that they've confirmed that diagnosis, but he is also here.
Is she still in labor? Has she had what's her situation?
We don't have any reports of a baby yet. They obviously are, taking good care of her. There is an infirmary here. We've got great EMS staff looking after her, so she's getting the best care she can under these situations.
And with the weather situation, you obviously are not responding to any calls unless they are unusual or a crisis situation, right?
Absolutely. The sheriff's department, as well as most of the municipalities, are not going to, put their folks out in danger. The focus here at the EOC from the beginning of the evacuation effort has been primarily concerned with the safety of the Baldwin County population. So that is still the focus now, and that includes our first responders and those folks. Right now, what a majority of the evening has been focused on here is planning. After the next 12 hours, what are the priorities going to be for the areas that are hardest hit? How can the agencies coordinate with each other and help the municipalities, and all that sort of working together has got to start now, and they're doing a great job of planning that.
Do you have any reports other than the two that you've just given us on the woman who's gone into labor and the man with chest pains, any other injuries or problems?
The only other one we had was actually another lady who thought she was in labor. I don't have clear details on that. It's my understanding that they also transported her, and she was fine.
What is your biggest concern right now?
Well, obviously, as I said before, the primary concern is the safety and health of the folks who live in Baldwin County. So you have to be concerned about the folks who decided not to leave, if there's anybody out there in low-lying areas or in unsafe buildings. So at this point, it's that's the frustrating part, is all these folks who are ready to get out there and help have to wait until it's safe to do that.
And we're getting reports from Gary Tuckman, who's in Gulf Shores, that there have been a number of roofs blown off and a lot of structure damage. Are you hearing this as well?
We heard some of that. Now, I haven't heard specifically about structure damage, but while folks were still out and sort of battening up their own hatches around at the different cities, we would hear reports of trees down, traffic lights down.
Well, stay with us, actually, Colette. Let's bring in Gary Tuckman. He's with us in Gulf Shores. Gary, are you there?
I am here, Catherine. I could tell Colette she's about 10 miles inland from us, north of us, and if they haven't gotten it yet, Colette, the eye of this hurricane has hit this area near Gulf Shores. It is completely calm right now. It's just drizzling. So if you haven't gotten it yet, you should be getting it any minute.
I'm sure she's looking forward to that. Colette, are you still there?
I am.
What is the situation where you are in the center?
It has not calmed. Well, the winds are slightly calmer than they were a few minutes ago, but it is not calm here yet.
Who is there where you are? Are you in the Emergency Management Center there?
Yes, I'm in the Emergency Operations Center in Robertsdale.
And who's there with you, and what kind of structure are you in?
This is a very safe structure. It's obviously built for the emergency management team to ride out storms here and be able to coordinate with each other. We've got generator power and water and that sort of thing.
Gary, sounds like that may be where you need to head.
Oh, I can tell you, and I can tell our viewers and Colette, we're in a pretty safe part of town right here, too, with some big, sturdy structures surrounding us. We feel very comfortable, particularly now. And you always have to be careful when you're in the eye of the hurricane and not think, okay, it's time to go out and do something. Obviously, right now, it's a piece of cake, but we know that in about a half an hour for New Orleans City, it's going to pick up again. But during the brunt of the storm, before the eye came, when the eye wall, which is the most dangerous part of the storm, we were pretty safe here. And I'll tell you, during Hurricane Francis, as we were talking about before, even though it wasn't as strong of a hurricane, it blew us around a little bit more because we didn't have the same kind of protection that we have here right now in Baldwin County, Alabama.
All right, let me thank Colette Boehm for being with us. She's with the Baldwin County Emergency Management Agency. Good luck to you, Colette.
Thank you very much.
We have Chad Myers with us this morning. We've given Orland Sydney a break, able to go home and get some rest after a terrific job tonight following that hurricane. Chad, are you there?
I am. Good morning, Catherine.
Well, you're a lot less wet than you were when Francis came ashore.
Yes, and my hair's in much better shape as well. It's all going in the same direction because I got it combed. I feel for those guys out there. I do want to show you I'll take you a couple places here. I guess the most important one be a tornado warning that we just picked up for Troy, Alabama, and that tornado warning includes the town of Pike County, includes the city of Troy until 2:30 for about another 15 or so minutes, and then that moves from Barber County. That will expire in about 5 minutes. The cells here are actually right there on my map. The cells right through here, not that far east of Troy, and the cells are moving to the north and northwest. So the cells here probably will have either some rotation indicated by Doppler radar or something maybe a little bit more sinister with them soon, as the storms are still really developing here. Take you a couple more places here because this is really a great machine that I can take you to. We'll go down to where Gary Tuckman was, really basically right through here, right into Gulf Shores. And I'll show you why Gary was seeing the lack of wind, because he was actually in the center of the eye, whereas our reporter, or I think she was the emergency management lady, actually up here towards Summerdale. And Summerdale not quite as close to the eye. And so the eye is only really calm, if you will, right in the very, very center of it. We always hear about, oh, the eye, the calm. But still, the winds here are going to be 50. Winds here are going to be 40, then 30, then 20. And then as you get closer to the eye, then you get down closer to the 0. But not until then. Most of the time in the eye, you still will get significant winds, and that's what probably she's seeing now, although significant is kind of a funny word considering what they're seeing on up here toward Mobile.
Well, Chad,
just had those guys up in Mobile, and they are really still getting hammered. And now I heard you breaking in there, Catherine. More weather is coming in on the western side of Mobile, and then another band coming in on the eastern side will pick their winds up significantly here in the next 15 minutes.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about the band that's hitting Pensacola right now. That looks like a very strong band of storms and winds.
Sure, absolutely. Here's what we're talking about here. Here's obviously the eye, the center of the eye. The wind speed 51, but don't let that kid you. I just checked. The observation said the gust was 86. So although these are sustained winds, everything we show you will be sustained winds today. The gusts are certainly much, much higher than what they are. And let's get right into Pensacola here, because here are the heaviest bands right through here, and also just to the west of Pensacola. We're talking from Pensacola right through Seminole, through Alberta, and then all the way back down to Orange Beach, just east of Gulf Shores. That entire area right through here, very, very strong when it comes to the winds. In fact, I can even get a little bit stronger for you.
And which way is that turning, Chad? Is that going to go counterclockwise and go?
Of course. That is moving straight north. These cells, these bands right here, moving straight north, and then they will eventually make the turn. Then they will be on the north side of the eye. If they continue to move, they will eventually get on the other side of the eye, and then they will begin to move south. They'll come all the way around here, come all the way around, then back down and connect the dots all the way to the other side of this, back offshore through kind of what's called an open eye wall, back around back here, and then into the closed eye wall here, back on the other side. So folks here, yes, to the east of Gulf Shores, probably getting it the worst. Pensacola Bay now filling up with water. They are now getting the storm surge. Significant storm surge in this area, probably in the way of 10 to 15 feet. This is coming at as a really bad angle as the water comes up through here, fills into the bay, and then on up into downtown Pensacola.
Yeah, exactly
Pensacola
what they didn't
want to happen,
though,
but yeah, it's higher land than Mobile for sure. Not putting anything on anybody else, but Pensacola much more ready for a storm surge than, let's say, Mobile would have been.
And as this eye moves ashore and that band of storms moves north, will it weaken?
Yes, but very slowly. We still have fairly warm air through here and still a part of the eye over water. Now you have to, as I zoom out one more time, you have to understand that still almost half of this hurricane is still in the warm water. So it's still picking up some moisture here, still trying to gain strength on this side, but yet then losing its strength on this side. So what's going to happen is that the wind fields are not going to be 130, 140, 120 anymore, but the wind fields will get larger, they'll get spread out, and the numbers will go all the way from east to west. The numbers may get back up into the 50 to 60 range as the storm almost kind of sits down on itself, and because it has a large bottom, the whole bottom starts to get wider, and that bottom actually, the winds go up to a moderate wind field rather than this excessive wind field that we have right through here, through this area just to the west of Pensacola.
Chad, stay right there, because I have on the phone with me Mayor John Fogg, the mayor of Pensacola, who's getting slammed right now. Your city is. Mayor, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Can you tell me your situation, where you are?
Well, it's actually pretty dramatic. Our hospitals here, one hospital was hit directly by a tornado. Personally, here, we've got roof damage and all kinds of leakage throughout my home. I'm sure that's the case almost everywhere else in our community. Their civic center has been damaged, and that was a place that that we were sending people that we thought was a safe place to be. We've got huge impacts in terms of wind and tidal surge. So I think the effects of this are going to be just pretty horrendous.
Mayor, that's frightening that you have damage to the building where people had gone for safety. Have you had any reports of injuries from this?
No, as a matter of fact, I mean, we don't. We don't have any numbers for you on that. And
well, we know you'd taken some precautions there when the storm started hitting that facility, the Civic Center. I know you'd moved people up into the center of that building.
That's correct. And we haven't been able to have our first responders out on the street during this storm at all. So we've really got 911 calls backing up. So we can't really do much until this thing passes. Unfortunately, the forecast now calls for about another 3 or 4 hours of hurricane-force winds, and that's going to be just catastrophic.
Chad, do you have anything you want to tell the mayor about the situation for Pensacola?
Actually, Mayor, I do. I'm going to zoom into Pensacola here for you, and you see a wind gust in downtown Pensacola to 46, but if I click on the Naval Air Station, it is gusting to 98 miles per hour right there. That's very much closer to the shore, to the Gulf, than what you would be downtown. A little bit of friction in the buildings around downtown may slow your numbers just a little bit. But, Mayor, you're going to get probably some numbers up there well in the 100-mile-per-hour range. Right now at the airport, you're gusting to 77 with a sustained wind to 46.
Well, that doesn't surprise me at all, and you're right about the friction. A more important concern really has to do with the tidal surge that's associated with this thing. We had some swells offshore that were 40 to 60 feet and waves like 20 to 25 feet. We think there's been just catastrophic damage on Pensacola Beach and Perdido Key, and we won't know until we know, obviously, but we're going to have to wait several more hours until these winds subside before we're able to do anything.
A lot of concerned people listening to your report there about the tornado hitting the hospital in Pensacola. What are you hearing about the situation at the hospital?
Well, I haven't heard anything. I just got that report from the city manager and the EOC, and I don't know what the extent of damage is to one of the hospitals that lost a roof. So we're just going to have to sit this one out until all of this finally slows down a little bit. But I don't think we've ever seen anything like this. We've been through Aaron and Opal and Frederick, and I don't recall anything like this.
Do you feel that the city was prepared for it, Mayor?
Oh, we were as well prepared as anybody could have been. I mean, everybody saw this storm coming, and we knew that it was a Category 5, and you do everything you can to prepare for something like that.
Right.
But once you've done everything you can do, then you just have to sit back and wait and see what happens, and that's what we're doing right now. That's the mode we're in.
Well, Mayor, we're going to check back with you in just a little bit. Perhaps you can get some more information from your people there in Pensacola on what's going on at the hospital and some of the other dramas that you said are unfolding right now in Pensacola, and we'll get back with you. Thanks for joining us on the phone. That is Mayor John Fogg of Pensacola. Checking back in now with Anderson and Rob. Winds have picked up a bit.
Yeah, you might say that, Catherine. The winds have really picked up significantly just in the last 5 minutes while you were talking with the mayor of Pensacola. Rob, what is going on? I mean, this wind, I have never seen anything like this. It is like a wall of white here.
We're getting the northwestern high wall right now.
No doubt about it.
No, there's no doubt in my mind. Chad might want to kind of come in and confirm this, but if the eye is in Gulf Shores, which is less than 30 miles, about 30 miles away, and the eye itself is 50. We're getting in the northwestern eye wall right now, so this is when it's getting bad, and it'll be bad for the next half hour, maybe even 45 minutes.
It is just amazing, though. I mean, literally in the space of 30 seconds. I mean, this wind. We thought it was bad before, but you can almost, it's like a solid sheet of white.
Yeah, that plus, I mean, Chad just mentioned that Pensacola had near 100-mile-an-hour gusts. They have the advantage that they have the wind coming over the water, less friction there. Even with the friction of having mostly now north wind, I think, it's still easily blowing 80, 90 miles an hour right now, probably gusting over 100.
It is amazing how quickly that changed, too.
What was that?
I said it's amazing how quickly that changed. I just looked at your live shot on the monitor a minute ago, and it didn't look anything like this. Let's bring in Chad, and he can tell us what's going on there. Chad?
Well, yeah, we talked about that eye wall coming in on the backside. And here's where we were talking with the mayor right through here in Pensacola. But now we'll focus our eye a little bit farther to the west, and literally not that far. But the eye wall now still right over the eye itself, the center of the eye still over Gulf Shores. But now they're getting this backlash here, this backside, this northern eye wall here, and now we're almost on the northwestern eye wall, and then all the way down to the western eye wall itself. And I will zoom right into downtown Mobile. Right here along the water. They are along the waterfront. Here is this very large squall right through here. This yellow zone is moving to the west, and that westward movement of that northern portion of the eye wall is the wind blast that those guys were getting.
Rob, is there anything you want to ask Chad?
Yeah, I didn't catch all that, Chad. So are we in the northwestern quadrant of that eye wall right now? Is that what you're telling me?
You are in it, sir.
Okay, so what's the latest odds at the Mobile? I heard you say Pensacola had a 98-mile-an-hour wind gust. What's going on in Mobile?
Well, I get one up here a little bit farther toward the northwest of you, kind of a little bit farther outside of downtown. And I've got winds 49, gusting to 75. That's that Mobile Bates. And then if I get downtown, I get down right along the water. This is an older observation. This is still about 45 minutes old. No special coming out of here. Northeast at 28, gusting to 44. But I expect that will certainly be coming up. That report was from Forest Park, a little bit farther down to the Mobile-Brooklyn area, and that number will come up as soon as this yellow area moves over them as well. That observation station doesn't quite have the wind that you had yet.
But there's no way. I mean, the winds here have got to be more than that. These winds, these are blowing incredibly hard.
Easily. We've got a pretty good gauge, Chad, at estimating the wind. We were overestimating them before, and then as the day went along, we got a pretty good. We got better at estimating. These are easily 80 and 90 and gusting over that, Chad. And we're on the 4th floor of a building, so that brings it up right there. And on top of that, there are other buildings around, so you know how that works in a city.
Absolutely.
It actually will accelerate the wind around those buildings. So,
hey, Chad, at this point, what kind of a storm surge are you thinking for this area?
Well, the lucky news is that the Mobile Bay area actually got only half of a storm surge. Your eye wall has actually moved over the easternmost side, let's say over Fairhope, over the eastern side of Mobile Bay, right through here. This is all in the Fairhope area. So the storm surge per se will be over in the Pensacola area as all the winds are blowing onshore here. You'll notice, guys, and obviously, Rob, you picked up on it, the winds where you are actually from the north. That actually blows some of the water out of the bay, and so you don't get quite as storm surges there, but certainly Mobile Bay could pick up 4 to 6 feet without even trying.
Chad, is that going to get worse for them as the system that's sitting over Pensacola right now whips around?
Does it get worse? Actually, this is probably the worst that they're going to see. It gets better from here, except maybe in some intermediate squalls. There's still one more squall about 20 miles east of them that will rotate around the eye. It's right here. It'll rotate around the eye and then back into downtown Mobile, and their winds will again look like a wall of water running right at them. Anderson, you were out there with me. You were out there with me. It's wall of water after wall of water. It comes and it goes and it comes and it goes.
It sure does, and I miss you, Chad, here. We all wish you were here. That squall you're talking about, though, at what point do you anticipate, I mean, how soon should we expect that?
Well, I gave you 10 minutes on the last one. I'm going to give you a matter of about 13 or 15 minutes on this one. It's right along the I-10, pointing it out here. It is rotating to from east to west. Typically, all the weather goes the other way in North America. This storm is actually going around the eye wall this way on the north side of the major low now here, just moving to the south of Fairhope. So in another 15 minutes, maybe less, you're going to get it. And that's not even it.
All right, well, we're definitely getting it, Chad. Let me ask you this. Are we going to get a piece of the eye itself at all, or are we just going to be on that western wall and just be getting north winds hammered? Or are we going to maybe see any calm weather here in the next hour and a half?
Sorry, Rob.
Please.
Swing and a miss on the eye wall there, bud. You are in the eye wall itself. You will never get the eye. The eye, obviously, a storm chaser's dream, but we got you about 30 miles too far west to see the center of the eye. You are right going to stay in the eye wall the entire time.
Hey, Anderson, didn't you miss the eye of Francis as well?
Yes, in fact, I did. I'm lucky in that way. I think no one's going to want to do this with me in the future because I always miss the eye.
Well, you guys were in a good spot. Hey, Chad, you got your $5 in, buddy? I think I won the pool.
Did you really?
What's
I'm looking up at your sign. It says Gulf Shores.
This is some inside scientific
I would
meteorological
say
joke.
that's a bullseye.
$5 in.
Catherine and I are completely out of this one, but that's fine.
All right. They're not going to let us in on the joke, but...
Yeah, I know. It's all right, though. It's right over our heads. What surprises me, though, Chad, especially given what we saw last time with Francis, is we're not seeing so much debris flying around. I mean, maybe it's just because we're 4 stories up, but just even looking at some of the apartment buildings around us, I was anticipating seeing a lot of things flying through the air. We really haven't at this point. I was down on the street a little while ago, and, saw a lot of garbage cans moving around, saw some trees uprooted. The awning of the hotel has been completely ripped off, a metal awning. But really not the same kind. I mean, we saw, aluminum siding from houses just wrapped around light poles, just wrapped around trees. Tomorrow morning as we go driving out, we may see that in some of the more lower-lying communities. But it surprises me here, the downtown, it does not seem, at this point at least, I was out half an hour ago, and right now the winds are so much stronger, who knows what it's like.
How in the world do we still have power? It's a small miracle that we're still on the air here.
I know.
Between the rain, the wind, and the likelihood of getting power knocked out, it just amazes me that we were able to stay on the air.
Which is also great news for the people in this area who are in their homes because they're still able to watch television. They're still able to get news reports because, as you know, I mean, that's one of the things that's so scary about being in one of these storms. You're in your home, you're in your bathroom, you're in your closet. I talked to a woman earlier today, a host of a Christian radio show here, who was going to be hunkered down in her home underneath the stairwell with 8 members of her family. It is a very scary experience, and when all you have to go by, is a transistor radio, or even if that goes out, if you don't have it and you're in the dark, it can be very scary. So it's great that there is electricity, at least in some parts still of Mobile. People can get the information from television, and they can at least get a sense of what is going on. Because when you're sitting in your home and you're hearing this happening, I mean, you hear these gusts outside, the mind plays tricks with you. It's incredible to see.
Not only that, but it's nearly impossible to sleep. The crew here is working on 12-hour shifts, and half the guys came down like, how are we going to sleep through this? And they just got their gear back on, and they've been working around the clock.
Because
hi, Rob, Anderson.
When you're inside in the hallways, the windows, you actually just feel them buckling. The sound, it's quite scary, Catherine.
All right, we've got to take a break. We'll get back with you guys in just a moment. We're also going to check in.
Yeah, if we're still here.
Hang on to something, guys. And also going to check in what's going on in New Orleans and Biloxi. Stay with us, everyone, as our coverage of Hurricane Ivan continues. Welcome back, everyone, as we continue our coverage of Hurricane Ivan at 3:36 Eastern Time in the morning. Looks like Pensacola, Florida now getting the brunt of that storm as it moves and the eye moves ashore. Right now we're going to move all the way over to Biloxi, Mississippi and check in with Susan Candiotti. It looks like things are relatively calm there in Biloxi compared to what we're seeing in Florida.
Certainly compared to what you're seeing far east of here. Emergency management officials here very relieved that they turn out to be on the west side of the storm, of course the weaker side of the storm here. Yet it's not they're getting off scot-free. They're still getting wind gusts of measuring down at the Civil Defense Agency of about 66 miles per hour, and we're still measuring gusts of about half that where we are a few miles away. We can tell you that there have been power lines down, power poles down as well, utility poles, and a lot of debris in the street. Some bridges have been closed due to flooding. They've had to put out some fires now and again due to downed electrical lines, and they've lost some roofs on part of a hospital, part of a restaurant here, and power is out to about 40,000 customers, according to Mississippi Power. And they said that the weather is still too bad for them to get out and try to make repairs now. Probably will have to wait until the morning, understandably so. They're still expecting flooding here, as I said, because of a storm surge predicted of anywhere from 10 to 15 feet, and they were supposed to have experienced high tide about an hour ago, the second high tide of the evening. As we drove around earlier, we were just beginning to see some debris in the roads, but much more of that is being reported now. Certainly earlier in the day, we spoke with some people who decided to defy mandatory evacuation orders south of Interstate 10, which is about 4 miles north of the shoreline. These people saying that they weren't trying to usurp authority, but they simply felt as though perhaps they would be on the weaker side of the storm, and that they were armed with enough supplies to get them through it. Hopefully tonight they are making it through it, and of course we'll be checking with them in the morning to see how they made out. Catherine?
All right, Susan, thank you very much. And let's quickly check in with John Zarella, who's been waiting out the storm in New Orleans. And thankfully, New Orleans has escaped with little to no damage.
Yeah, certainly little to no damage here in the city itself, and I think given what we are seeing to the east in Mobile and certainly now in Pensacola, Florida, that the people here have to consider themselves extraordinarily lucky. You can see down here Decatur Street, we're in the French Quarter, everything completely deserted here. Except for a few cars and the police going by periodically. The curfew has been in effect since 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon here, and should go for another few hours till 7 a.m. The mayor was on local radio a few hours back and saying that they expected to lift the curfew at about 7 a.m., but still encouraging people who had evacuated, the many thousands who left the city when it looked like Ivan might be making a more direct calling card here. Those people should probably start streaming back in here sometime afternoon. Some of the parishes, like Jefferson Parish, asking the people not to come back until later in the afternoon. And down outside, way east in Louisiana, Catherine, there is expected to be some pretty extreme flooding from the storm surge, the onshore flow there, and reports of, in some areas, of that already. And that's just terribly low-lying areas, and it's just unclear, of course, in the overnight hours how bad it was, but apparently there was some significant storm surge damage in some areas in far eastern and low-lying Louisiana. But again, here in downtown New Orleans, we were down on Canal Street a few hours ago. A lot of the tourists hanging out in the hotels, people who could not get out. There were 10,000 or so from one convention here who couldn't get airline flights out when the airlines shut down. And many of the locals who did not leave chose to come and come into hotels overnight rather than risk riding it out in their homes should Ivan take a sudden turn to the left. So lots of people in the French Quarter tonight in the hotels, and of course a lot of them hoping to get out of here tomorrow or get back to their homes, and are all, Catherine, breathing a great sigh of relief tonight that Ivan jogged to the right. Not good news for those people to our east, but here in the Big Easy things were pretty tense for the past 24 to 36 hours when it looked like Ivan might be coming here. Catherine?
You know, you just talked about the low-lying areas there around New Orleans. I cannot imagine what Ivan would have done there. Reading some of the email that we're receiving from people saying they're talking with loved ones in Pensacola, waves breaking down front doors there. Incredible amount of wind and rain from this, and it's not over yet.
Yeah, it's unthinkable, really, almost incomprehensible what could happen here if a major hurricane like Ivan made that direct hit, because you've got the Gulf of Mexico on one side, the Mississippi River on another side, and huge Lake Pontchartrain on a third side. And the flooding, where I'm standing, right here in the French Quarter, could very easily be under 15 to 20 feet of water. If that major hurricane were to have made landfall here. And, you know, they talk about 3 months to get the pumps back working. Water in the city up to 5 or 6 months before they could pump it out, having to blow up some of the levee system to get the water to backflow out of the city back into Lake Pontchartrain. So the scenario here, if something, and tens of thousands potentially dead. Lots of people that we've seen walking the streets at night, a lot of people that didn't evacuate, lots of people who can't evacuate. There's about 100,000 people who have no means of transportation out of the city. They rely on bus service to get them in and out. Those are the people that are the city officials and emergency managers here fear would lose their lives if they ever got that big one. And they have dodged the bullet so many times since Hurricane Betsy in 1965. And once again, very lucky. But that worst-case scenario here is literally unimaginable and unthinkable. Catherine?
All right, John. John Zarrella in New Orleans, thank you very much. We'll continue our coverage. We're going to take a break as we continue our live coverage of Hurricane Ivan. Stay with us.
The full impact of terror. An all-new CNN presents CNN Sunday 8 Eastern.
Welcome back, everyone. The eye of Hurricane Ivan has moved ashore Gulf Shores, Alabama. CNN's Gary Tuckman has been there throughout the night. He's joining us on the phone with an update. Gary?
Well, Catherine, we were on with you about 55 minutes ago, and we started feeling the winds diminishing, and for almost an hour now, the eye of Hurricane Ivan has been over us here in Gulf Shores. It is as calm as the inside of a shopping mall right now. And 1 hour ago, we were dealing with 100-mile-per-hour gusts. Now it is completely calm. The rain has stopped. You can't see the stars in the sky. That's a little disappointing. But the fact is, we actually now see for the first time in about 10 hours people driving on the roads. Now, obviously, that is not a good thing to do, because we do know that at any time now, and you could talk to Chad, I hope, afterwards, and maybe he'll have an idea of how long it'll be. We anticipate the back end of the storm hitting us and for the conditions to get atrocious again. But I can tell you right now, it is a surreal calm right now here in Gulf Shores, about 40 miles southeast of Mobile, where we saw our friends Anderson and Rob getting buffeted by the winds.
Gary, a lot has happened over the last few hours. You've reported a fire station losing its roof, several homes losing its roof, the National Guard having to come rescue a woman who went into labor.
Right, and we just talked a short time ago to that emergency operations center again for our viewers who've been with us and wanting to know how that woman is doing. As of now, she has not given birth to a baby. We don't know if she necessarily will, because apparently she had gone into premature labor, and they might administer some medicine to stop the premature labor, or they might end up delivering the baby. But as of now, no baby has been delivered at this time.
I can't imagine being pregnant and trying to ride out a hurricane. I can certainly understand how that would put you into labor. What are you hearing, Gary, about other damage in the area there?
Right now, it's not clear, because the emergency officials have been staying inside their emergency operations center and elsewhere. They have not been riding around doing rounds unless it was a life or death situation or extraordinary situation like this woman who they had to rescue and bring to the emergency operations center, who was having a baby. We do know there have been some damages to homes, to a fire station. There are many, many trees blocking roadways, but until we have daylight, which is still 3 hours away, we will not have a good comprehensive report about how much damage, we have, and most importantly, if there have been any injuries or worse yet, any deaths.
All right, Gary, you've done a terrific job for us there in Gulf Shores, Alabama. We'll be back with you a little bit later. We're going to take a break now. We come back, we're going to have some news about a breaking story that's happening in Baghdad. We'll have that for you. Hopefully, we'll also have a report from Pensacola on the drama that's unfolding there. Stay with us, everyone. Diana Muriel joining us from Baghdad this morning. Once again, the breaking news out of there. 2 Americans and a Briton were seized from their offices in Baghdad by unknown kidnappers. Of course, we'll continue to follow that story as the information comes in. Right now, we are following Hurricane Ivan. And let's take one last look with Chad and find out where the storm is hitting the hardest right now. Pensacola has been the big concern there. We talked with the mayor a few minutes ago talking about a tornado hitting the hospital there. They have severe damage. Even the Civic Center, where a lot of people had gone for safety, has been hit. What are you seeing?
What I want to focus on now is something significantly far away from the eye, because we have been focusing on the eye so hard. But back up here around Montgomery, there's a circulation going on, and in fact, a tornado warning is in effect for Montgomery itself. Montgomery County and Montgomery, the circulation bringing it through Montgomery a little bit after 3 o'clock this morning. And here you go, that tornado warning is in effect until 3:15. You can zoom back out. I want to show you that this entire line has circulation all the way back down, even into parts of Florida. Every time you see one of these little circles, that means that the forecast center, the hurricane and the radar picture here picking up some type of spin as this system comes on by. One of the outer bands coming on by here. So not only is there spin around Montgomery, but there's spin all the way down around Tallahassee as well. And I wouldn't be afraid to bet that we'll get an awful lot more tornado warnings in the overnight hours. The most dangerous type of tornado, one that obviously you can't see because it's happening in the middle of the night. There is the eye wall. We'll get back to the guys there. The backside of the eye wall into Mobile. Gary Tuckman right here, right in the center of the eye. Obviously, we have porters in Panama City and also into Pensacola, just to the west of Pensacola now, getting hit with winds at 115 miles per hour. Catherine.
Chad, is the worst over for at least the coast, the Gulf Coast?
For some spots, yes. I would say anywhere from about Gulf Shores or Fort Morgan all the way back westward, yes. But here, right along the shore, we're still going to have more storm surge coming in here because the winds are still blowing on shore. So the waves are still battering the shore, and obviously the water is still coming up.
I mentioned quickly, I mentioned Pensacola a moment ago. Can you show us where that is on the map?
Sure. If we zoom into Pensacola, and we'll show you really what's going on. This will be the right side of the eye wall here on Viper. The eye wall itself, as it spins around, there comes the little magnifying glass. Pensacola right through here, the city of Pensacola right here, so the Naval Air Station really getting battered over and over and over, and Perdido Key, man, just Perdido Key really getting hit now. Here you see the wind gusts gusting to 77 at Pensacola, but there's a Naval Air Station. If you keep zooming in, you'll find the Naval Air Station right down here, down across the south. There's the arrow. We'll click on that, and what does it say? East-southeast at 71, gusting to 98 miles per hour.
Wow.
Just in the past few minutes.
All right, Chad, I know you're going to be with us throughout the morning. That does it for me, though. And thank you for joining us on our overnight coverage, live coverage of Hurricane Ivan. CNN's Carol Costello is standing by in the wings. She's going to take you through the morning as we continue to follow this storm.
Hurricane Ivan sweeps the shore with a fury. You're looking at David Mattingly in Panama City. He's east of the storm. We'll get to him in a bit. It is Thursday, September 16th. This is an expanded 3-hour edition of Daybreak. And good morning to you from the CNN Global Headquarters at Atlanta. I'm Carol Costello. Now in the news, need we say more? Hurricane Ivan. We've got our correspondents in key areas watching the storm. Gary Tuckman is in Gulf Shores, Alabama, where the storm came ashore just a couple of hours ago. Chris Lawrence and Corrine Winter are in Pensacola, Florida. John Zarella in New Orleans. Susan Candiotti is in Biloxi, Mississippi. Anderson Cooper and meteorologist Rob Marciano are in Mobile, Alabama. And David Mattingly is covering things for us in Panama City Beach, Florida. But first, let's head to the forecast center to see where exactly this thing is. and how long it's going to stick around. Good morning, Chad.
Good morning. We finally have a new satellite picture. We have what we call eclipsing in the overnight hours. The sun is actually banging on the satellite and can't send a signal back down. It actually can't see because it's blinded like you are driving into the sunshine. Here is the eye itself, though, now moving just to the east of Mobile and just to the west of Pensacola. Anyone that's to the east of this eye is getting hit a lot harder than anyone to the west of this side. Although our Marciano is out there and he's reporting wind gusts over 70 miles per hour now, you get east of that almost toward Pensacola, and actually we'll have significantly higher wind gusts there. I want to switch some sources and I want to show you what's going on here on the radar. It's actually going to come over for my producers and my directors. PA number 7. This is where this is coming out of, and this is a significant radar maker here. I can actually zoom into many other spots for you as this moves on by from Pensacola right on over to Panama City. Let's see if we can't get that satellite picture off there and get either to the weather switcher. There we go. Now I can actually show you what's going on. Here we go, from Mobile over to Pensacola. I can zoom in and notice this red band to the west of Pensacola. The red band continues up north and northeast of Mobile and back down around to the backside of Mobile, and Mobile, where our two reporters are. I see them standing, getting blown around in the wind now. I'll zoom into where the weather is much worse than that. On the east side, Carol, this severe thunderstorm area here just to the west of Pensacola, making significant damage down here along the beach. As I keep going in, the names of the cities will begin to pop in, and I hope you don't recognize them, because if you do, they don't look like they did when you left. As we keep getting closer and closer and closer, it's Perdido Beach, Perdido Heights, and Perdido Key, all the way over to Fort McRae. This area right here, I'll even pan down a little bit for you, still more storms pounding the shoreline, and this shoreline very well may be taking a pounding enough to actually make a cut across that shoreline, where that actually would cut that island in half. And sometimes that happens, and in fact, we actually had a significant cut across parts of the Cape Hatteras area when Isabel went over. This whole thing, that's the area that could be getting the cut right now. As I pan out for you and zoom back out, you'll be able to see a couple of things here on the radar picture that you probably couldn't see before. We have this spinning around here, a little bit of dry air rotating into the system on this side. There probably is not a southern eye wall. If there was, our Gary Tuckman would be getting it right now, because he is located right there, Gulf Shores. If anybody gets the eye wall, Gary Tuckman got it this time.
Well, Chad, we just heard from Gary Tuckman. He said the eye passed over him and things were very calm.
Yes.
And very beautiful, in fact.
Correct. Now, there's a little piece of the western eye wall rotating around the backside here, and it will hit him with some winds, probably maybe 30 to 35 miles per hour, but not some of the numbers that we were seeing before. Here's a number right here out of just Naval Air Station, south of Pensacola. Winds gusting right now to 98 miles per hour, Carol.
Unbelievable. You know, just north of Gulf Shores, where Gary Tuckman is, where it's calm now because the eye is there.
Right here, yes.
Yeah, let's head to Mobile, Alabama to check in with Anderson Cooper and Rob Marciano, because they're getting blasted by wind right now. What a difference.
Good morning, Carol.
Yeah, what a difference a few miles make. You know, often as a little boy, I wonder what the eye wall of a hurricane looks like. I now know. This apparently is it. This is what we're in.
We're in the eye wall. I gotta assume now, and Jack can confirm this, that we're starting to slide into the western eye wall. Just about 20 minutes ago, when it was really blowing, we were in the northwestern eye wall, and I'm just glad we're not in the northeastern eye wall, because things are even worse over there. I gotta estimate winds here 80, 90 miles an hour sustained with higher gusts. We should mention, Carol, that we're protected here. We go about 10 yards that way, and we're in it, and we're in it big time. It's way too dangerous to be standing out there.
Yeah, and what's also interesting, Carol, just a couple hours ago, we were sort of hunched down using that big planter over there as sort of a blockage for safety. As you can see, it's not too safe anymore. The wind just picked it up and knocked it straight over. That's about 600 pounds. It gives you some sense just of how strong these winds are. You know, we can't even step out now 10 feet. We wouldn't even be able to stand in those winds. They're so high. As you well know, Carol, here in Mobile, thousands of people evacuated over the last 24 hours or so. A lot of people still hunkered down in their homes trying to ride out this storm. We've been driving around all night, surveying the damage. A lot of downed trees, a lot of downed branches. The awning of this hotel ripped right off, this steel awning. It now wrapped around a tree. There are a number of trees down, even here on Water Street. But we haven't seen the kind of flooding that we feared. It still may come, but that storm surge we had been talking about not going to hit here as we had thought because the storm moved a little eastward.
Yeah, we got a favorable track. I mean, the fact that it went over Gulf Shores means that it moved east, means that we're on the western side of this. The greatest storm surge are always in the center and to the east. So we missed it by about 20 or 30 miles. And that's great news, because if it was 20, 30 miles the other way, we'd be talking about a storm surge of 15, 16, maybe even 18 feet right down here in downtown Mobile. It will still flood here because of the rains and because of the more mild surge, but north winds, Anderson, are going to help blow that water out. Eastern side of the bay, though, can't say the same for them. They're going to see a significant surge.
Yeah, that is certainly bad news for them.
Hey, guys,
a lot of people maybe here breathing a sigh of relief. Yeah, Carol?
For people who've never been to Mobile, tell us exactly where you are and what it's like. The electricity must be out around you.
Yeah, well, basically, we're in a hotel right on the waterfront in downtown Mobile, Alabama. The Mobile River is just over there. That feeds into Mobile Bay. Mobile, Alabama is about, I don't know, 20, 30 miles inland, so we're not right on the ocean. So we're somewhere, not on the Gulf, so we're somewhat protected in that sense. We're actually farther inland than Gary Tuckman, who was on Gulf Shores.
But the big deal, Carol, kind of like New Orleans. New Orleans below sea level, but here in Mobile, we're just barely above sea level. Just some of the western suburbs are 20 feet above sea level. I mean, they're in dry ground here, but Mobile, because of that, floods very easily. And on top of that, when any sort of hurricane comes through, storm surge is the biggest concern, because a Category 1 storm that makes a direct hit is going to significantly flood this area. We had a Category 3 landfall not more than 2 hours ago, and luckily it's just passing to our east, so the storm surge shouldn't be nearly as bad. But the winds certainly damaging. We talked about that, and that's going to continue to pepper this area probably for the next 3 to 4 hours.
Well, I want to
Carol, I think next hurricane you should come down with us.
Actually, I would love to. Actually, I've covered hurricanes, and it's not very comfortable because there's no place to sleep, and it's so eerie because the electricity is out, and you start hearing all sorts of things, and your mind starts playing tricks on you. Very bizarre.
No,
but we're gonna leave you there for just a second. We want to travel actually south to Gulf Shores to talk to Gary Tuckman, who experienced the actual eye of the storm. Good morning, Gary.
Carol, good morning to you, and still experiencing it. For 1 hour and 20 minutes now, we've had virtually no rain. We have very light winds, and it's now been 80 minutes since this has gone on. Now, we anticipate any time now for winds to return, but we have heard the good news from Chad that it won't be as bad as it was just before. But literally, an hour and a half ago, we had 100-mile-per-hour gusts, and within 10 minutes, it went for those 100-mile-per-hour gusts to almost nothing. And it really is an amazing part of Mother Nature that you can have that when you have Anderson and Rob, who are 40 miles to my northwest as the crow flies, going through what they're going through. And here we are sitting here where you can just walk around and have a picnic if you wanted to. But there certainly is a false sense of security. For the first time in 10 hours, we've seen some people on the road who are driving. Bad decision, but not only because the weather's going to get bad again, but because there are power lines in the streets, there are trees down in the streets, there is serious flooding right now, and obviously that is not a good thing to do. But as of right now, it does appear that as far as the weather goes here, where the center of the storm has passed, that the worst is over, but there is still some bad stuff to come. Carol?
Gary, stay with us. We're going to bring Chad in to talk about this bizarre phenomenon as far as the eye is concerned. So for an hour and 20 minutes, Gary has seen no wind, no rain. It's pretty nice outside.
That is right. He is actually in the center of the eye itself, and it's a chaser's dream, but unfortunately he also got battered to get there. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit for you. This is the outer eye wall now that's really hammering extreme eastern, southern Alabama now, moving into the western sections. This line you see right there, that's the line between Alabama and Florida, and Pensacola, obviously, right here, the Naval Air Station down here. Here is where Gary Tuckman is right here. The entire north side of the eye wall is already past him, and there really isn't much of a south side of the eye wall. It looks like it's trying, it would have tried if it was over water, to reform an eye wall right here. This part here would have been the part that's actually coming around and around and around and around. So as we zoom you back out, trying to zoom you back out, the entire area begins to circulate around and around and around. We will go to a different area here. I'm going to switch sources here so that I can show you what's going to happen here if I can. Let me see if I can get you to a different radar. Yes, let's go to this one. I'm going to walk in front of it, Carol, because I can explain it a little bit better. What we have here are the outer bands on this side, and you can actually see some of the circulation here. These circulation are actually storms that are circulating that very well may have tornado warnings on them, or if they don't, they may soon. Montgomery, you did have a tornado warning on it, and your storm right there is still circulating. Here's another part of the eye wall, another outer band of an eye wall, another inner eye wall, and then obviously the one right here that we're obviously so concerned about, that one that actually spins around, the one that does have the 130-mile-per-hour winds, and in fact some of those higher gusts than that, and that's just of east where Gary is. Gary's right in the center right there, and there's no wind where he is, simply because the wind's going around him.
Stay with me, Chad. Let's go back to Gary. Gary, you say you see people driving around the streets now. They fear that the worst is over, right?
Well, I don't want to make it sound like that everyone has come out of their house and is starting to do some joyriding. We've just seen, we hadn't seen any cars, Carol, for 10 hours. I mean, people have been very compliant. They really got out of Dodge. So we've seen a couple of cars on the streets for the first time. Obviously, that is not a good move, but it's not like everyone is going out and driving right now. You know, the fact is that most people have left the Alabama coast, knew it was not smart to be here, and the emergency officials are very pleased with the compliance they've had during this hurricane.
Okay, we have someone who lives in Mobile Bay, actually, John McNeil. He's on the phone with us right now. He has a home on the west side of Mobile Bay, and obviously, John, you have stayed to brave the storm. Tell us what it's been like.
We lost power around 10 o'clock. I forget what time it was I last talked with y'all, and one of the comments I made, I said I was hoping it didn't get worse. Well, it's been getting worse. We were thinking it was going to be letting up by now, but we're hearing a lot of trees hitting the ground. Of course, we can't see other than what's just around our house. We're hearing the pine trees mainly. You can hear them snap. It's distinct. Sounds like somebody snapping their fingers, and then, of course, there's a big thud right after that when it hits the ground. We're assuming that we're losing a lot of the oak trees and pecan trees because of all this rain. We didn't have this rain during Frederick in '79, so we didn't. It was just it was devastating. But this, I'm assuming, when the sun comes up, we're going to see a lot worse because this wind has just been relentless and
I'm sure
constant. The noise, the howling of the noise is unbelievable.
It's very scary. I know I've experienced that myself. Tell us about your home and how you fortified it against this hurricane.
We boarded up. This is literally the first time we've ever boarded up. When we started hearing the reports of, you know, Frederick coming in as a Category 3 and this was coming in as a Category 4, we thought, well, let's board up. And it's a brick home. We're on Dog River, which my house is on Dog River. We're about 1.2 miles from Mobile Bay, the western shore of Mobile Bay. We're Dog River.
Why did you decide to stay, and are you glad you did?
At this point, we're glad we did. We're prepared. We've got provisions, generators, and fuel, and food, and chainsaws, 3 chainsaws. We've got one of my sons here from the University of Alabama. He came down and brought some more provisions, and I've got another son up there who will come in as soon as the storm passes to bring more provisions. And one reason we stay is we feel safe in this house. It's a brick house, and it would be a very hard situation to get to the house if we weren't here after the storm passes by because of all the trees that will, just after seeing what we saw with Frederick, it just takes a long time to get here.
I talk to people all the time who want to brave the storm and they stay and they have no regrets, but common sense would say, oh, why didn't you get out of there? Because, eventually you would have gotten back to your home.
Eventually we would have, but we feel safe. The trees we only have a couple of trees that are of concern. They're that size and that close to the house, but we feel pretty confident that we'll be okay. And we were very glad to see the hurricane at the last minute take the trek a little bit more to the east so that the tidal surge would not come up Mobile Bay like we originally thought it would.
Absolutely. John McNeil, thank you for joining Daybreak this morning, and you stay safe. The Red Cross is standing by to move into the areas affected by Hurricane Ivan. If you want to help the Red Cross with your donations, please call 1-800-HELP-NOW. That's 1-800-HELP-NOW. This special 3-hour edition of Daybreak, we'll be right back.
September 12, 1979. Hurricane Frederick swept across the fragile coastal reaches of Alabama and Mississippi. Witnesses say the Category 3 storm leveled parts of Mobile, making it look like a bomb went off. Frederick caused millions of dollars in damage to southern Alabama alone. With the added destruction in Mississippi and parts of Florida, Frederick proved costly indeed. Damage was more than $2 billion.
Some perspective regarding hurricanes for you. 36% of all U.S. hurricanes hit Florida. 76% of Category 4 or higher hurricanes have slammed into either Florida or Texas, and about half of the hurricanes to hit the middle Gulf Coast, southern Florida, and yes, even New York, have been major hurricanes. At least 2 people in the Florida panhandle have been killed by Hurricane Ivan. The storm's outer edge spawned a number of tornadoes as it moved across the state. CNN's David Mattingly joins us now from Panama City Beach, Florida. And I guess you're 70 to 80 miles now from where the eye is hitting, but I can see the weather. Well, it's terrible.
That's right, Carol. We are seeing gusts well in excess of 60 miles an hour out here, possibly more than 70 miles an hour at times. There are 3 bridges that link these beaches to the mainland, and according to the Panama City Beach Police, those bridges are now closed. They close them when we reach a sustained winds of 55 miles per hour. They're very tall bridges in order to allow marine traffic underneath, so it's unsafe for anyone to try and drive over them now, so they've got those bridges closed off. We've got the wind ripping through here with a lot of rain. It stings when it reaches your skin. We've been seeing all kinds of debris going up and down the beach here. 4x8 sheets of plywood, 4x4 posts, pieces of decking, all kinds of things coming out in this surf. We rescued this Frisbee just a short time ago, and I'm going to use it to demonstrate what kind of winds we're seeing right now. I'm going to turn my back to you and toss it up, and hopefully we'll be able to follow it for a little bit. Here goes.
Well, I don't...
Probably the strongest Frisbee toss I've ever had. And it's still going. It's still going down there.
Oh, it's still up in the air?
Probably will show up. No, it's on the ground, but it'll probably show up in another state the way the wind's going right now. But that's just a demonstration of what's going on out here. There's a curfew, and in fact, people are not allowed outside until the morning. Everyone wondering what the beach is going to look like when they do come out in the morning, because this beach is the bread and butter of this town. People come here to enjoy these beaches by the millions over the years, particularly at spring break when it's not unusual to see up to 400,000 young people coming here to party. Of course, this is a dramatically different scene from what they might be used to. Instead of the white sand beaches, we're seeing a lot of white sea foam. Sometimes waves come in here, they look like they're completely covered with shaving cream. They're so frothy and whipped up. But we're keeping an eye out for beach erosion. During Hurricane Opal in 1995, large portions of this beach were actually gouged out by the winds and the surf. It doesn't seem to be nearly that severe, but there is still a lot of action on this beach. At times it looks like there's a river coming this way because of the way the wind is whipping the surf down the beach. And you can probably just notice how much stronger the rain has gotten in just the last few minutes. We are possibly 100 miles or so from where the eye of this storm made landfall. And Carol, just look at the conditions here. That gives you an idea of the magnitude of this hurricane.
David Mattingly, thank you very much. You want to go to Chad right now to talk more about the magnitude of this storm because it's gigantic. What is it, 40 miles across, Chad?
Oh, just the eye itself is 40 miles from one side to the other, of course. Now, we have hurricane winds that extend almost 100 miles from the eye itself. Here is the eye here, right over Mobile, the back side of the eye here, coming into Mobile, the front side, the most dangerous side coming right into the western edge now of Pensacola. The line between Florida and Alabama really getting hit the hardest now. They have the right side of the eye wall That's forward motion plus the spin plus the gusts. And a couple of folks have been calling in here and writing in on the email system about their kids in Tallahassee. What are they seeing? Well, in fact, they're not seeing anything when it comes to the eye wall, but they're seeing one of these outer bands, one of these fingers, as you will, as the whole thing starts to spin around. You get one after another, and here's Tallahassee right here, and the shear marker right here showing some rotation in some of these storms as they move from the southwest on up toward the northeast. And as it does, you can see the motion of this thing just kind of pushes this part this way, this part this way, and a couple of these things have been rotating. The shear markers come and go. That just means that once in a while the storms are spinning and sometimes they're not. But we did have a tornado warning earlier for Montgomery, Alabama, and so the spread of this thing now is getting much, much larger. The potential for this storm now to affect so many more people is getting much, much larger. This is like a very big person now sitting on a very small chair. The bottom kind of spreads out. Now the bottom of this storm is spreading out. The core is not going to be so intense as it moves on shore, but then the winds are actually going to get stronger farther from the storm. And in fact, it could be 150 miles away where we'll see tropical storm force, 50-mile-per-hour winds as this thing heads straight on up toward the north and toward the northeast.
Chad, we have an interesting graphic just to demonstrate the size of this storm. It's literally the size of Texas. We could take a look at that graphic right now. There it is, right behind you. Sure. The other thing I wanted to ask you about are tornadoes, because I understand several tornadoes have hit the city of Pensacola. In fact, the most disturbing thing we heard earlier this morning was from the mayor, John Fogg. A tornado actually took a direct hit on a hospital there. We don't know much more information than that, but we're going to try to get the mayor back on the phone. But
let me explain on the radar. I can show you kind of what's going on. Every time you get a strong cell to rotate around, you can see them in the yellows here. There's obviously the reds and the yellows here, but that's the eye itself. And then back out here, the outer eye wall, it is actually spinning as well. This whole thing has so much what we call vorticity to it, so much spin with the whole thing that every time you get a cell that develops along this line, you can get the potential for one of those cells to continue to spin. And that's the one we've been watching here around Tallahassee. And so we see these spins. Every time we get a new radar picture, there's a different spin. Sometimes one will spin for a long time, or it'll only spin for 15 or 20 minutes. When we had Francis move over, the entire central part of Florida was under a tornado warning, just numbers of tornado warnings as these storms spun, and they lined up just like this, Carol, all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. For a time here, I was measuring about 15 or 16, counting the spins here, see how many I can find right now. This is all the way out. There's one. This is going to move ahead for you. But there was one up here, there's one down here, two down here, and then obviously some lightning strikes with them as well. So yes, the potential for the tornadoes, not really in the center with the eye, but far away. When you think you're safe, that's where you're actually going to be in trouble with those tornadoes.
So heed the warning.
You hear the sirens, you know where to go.
That's right. Thank you, Chad. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with much more on Hurricane Ivan on Daybreak.
September 5th, 1996. Hurricane Fran howled across North Carolina's Cape Fear. The storm surge from the Category 3 hurricane devastated coastal areas. And Fran's heavy rains generated flooding from the Carolinas to Pennsylvania. The storm's winds damaged homes and buildings from North Carolina to Virginia. When the cost was tallied, Fran did some $3.2 billion in damage.
In case you're just joining us, Hurricane Ivan has indeed made landfall in Alabama, near Mobile, Alabama to be exact. The eye is exactly over where Gary Tuckman is standing by right now, and that is Gulf Shores, Alabama. It's the Category 3 storm, and the winds are very strong, and the rain is coming down. It's coming down really hard. We want to take you now to the city manager, Buzz Eddy. He's the city manager in Gulf Breeze, Florida. That's about 10 miles south of Pensacola. Pensacola didn't get a direct hit, but boy, the hurricane has spawned tornadoes, and there is heavy damage there, and of course the wind and the rain wreaking havoc as well. Hello, Mr. Eddy.
Hey, good afternoon, or good morning.
I know, it's easy to lose track of time when these things happen. Tell us your situation now.
Well, we've endured a lot of the heaviest winds that we've experienced here in a lot of the citizens' longest-term memory. It's been devastating. Storm surge is record proportion. It's just been a terrible situation.
Are the streets flooded, trees down?
Yes.
Tell us how badly the streets are flooded.
Well, we got a couple of streets that go along the Santa Rosa Sound, Soundview Trail, and Deer Point, and those streets are all underwater, under 3 or 4 feet of water.
Have most people cleared out of their homes and are someplace safe?
Yes, most of the people, especially along those areas I just mentioned, have evacuated. But we've got a lot of people that are still here in the interior sections of town, and we've had reports into our dispatch center of roofs damaged and trees down, and the streets are nearly impassable with trees and wires down.
I can only imagine how flooded 911 is right now.
Actually, we have not getting a lot of calls, but when they do come in, it's pretty bad.
Is there any way you can get out to help people who call in?
We have had firefighters and police officers out to try to aid people that need help. We've taken a few folks from their homes to the local Gulf Breeze hospital, and that's about all we can do.
You know, speaking of hospitals, earlier we talked to the mayor of Pensacola, who said that a hospital there took a direct hit. Have you heard anything about that?
No, I have not. Our hospital, I spoke to the hospital administrator, Dick Fulford, and they're up and running and doing, taking care of folks.
So your hospitals where you are in Gulf Breeze, they're fine?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good thing. Where are you exactly, and how are you keeping safe?
Well, I'm here at City Hall. We've got police officers and firefighters. We moved our dispatch center from the police department to City Hall, and we've got a generator here, and lights are on, and we've got you know, we're going to hold up here until the storm clears some. The winds die down, then we're going to go out and assess the damage and get the streets clear.
Yeah, how do you do that when the streets are so flooded and they're blocked by trees?
You just have to get the main streets and take it piece by piece.
Is this what you expected?
No, it's much worse than we expected.
How so?
Well, the storm surge is worse, and the winds were actually worse than we expected. I think the storm made a wobble back our direction, and it's ended up being worse than we thought.
Well, stay on the line with us. I'm going to bring our meteorologist, Chad Myers, in, and he's going to give you a bit of what may happen, you know, from now forward. Chad, are you there?
I am, Carol.
So
and
how long will the rain fall there?
Well, the rainfall is one thing, and it could rain for a while there, but the wind will actually begin to taper off. They are right now in the center of the eye wall itself, the most dangerous part of the storm. There's a little bit of a gap where they are right now, but really not very much. I'm going to zoom into the Pensacola area, and if you take the bridge from Pensacola south toward the beaches, it's this little island right there that we're talking about, and they're really not that high. These islands are really, they don't have a lot of topography for them. So as we get you even closer, the Villa Sabine, very low. I mean, probably 15 feet at the most, maybe even 10, basically an entire sand beach all the way over to Fort McCree. And now getting right here onto this island right here, this is the island of Gulf Breeze, and obviously storm surge going to be really affecting the entire outer barrier island and also Gulf Breeze itself.
So, Mr. Eddy, you've heard that. I'm sure you'll be able to deal with it, but of course all of this takes money. Are you fairly confident you'll get the help you need?
Good meetings and briefings with our Emergency Operations Center all week, and the state has poised some resources to come our way as soon as they can safely make it this direction. I'm sure things will be fine. We lost our water supply here just an hour or so ago, so residents in our area should boil their water. We hope to get that up and running at first light.
I hope so. Mr. Eddy, the city manager from Gulf Breeze, Florida, thank you for joining Daybreak this morning, and good luck to you. We want to head to Gulf Shores, Alabama, and Gary Tuckman right now, because remember, just a few minutes ago, we said the eye was passing right over where Gary Tuckman was, and it was calm and beautiful, but not so anymore. Gary.
Well, Carol, for 1 hour and 20 minutes, you're right. We had the eye over us. It was completely calm, and there was no rain. And then 20 minutes ago, as suddenly as the eye came, it went away. And we're back to the winds and the rains coming again. The winds have changed direction. Before they were coming from the east this way. Now they're coming from the south behind me towards this direction. We can tell you that there is a lot of flooding here in Baldwin County, Alabama, where we are right now. Gulf Shores is the town. We're at the southernmost town in the county. Behind us is a barrier island that has been evacuated now for many hours. That barrier island was under quite a bit of water 8 hours ago, before we had even tropical storm force winds. We can only imagine what it looks like right now, but it has been evacuated. We saw no civilians there whatsoever yesterday afternoon and early evening before we too left, when the water started getting up to our knees on the streets. We were told that in some places there's over a foot of sand from the beach on the streets. We were told that the firehouse, which is a couple of miles behind us on the barrier island, has lost part of its roof and has lost the door and is flooded inside, that other homes in this area have lost their roofs. We told you the story earlier today, how emergency officials were not going out at all, except for life or death emergencies and extraordinary circumstances. One of those extraordinary circumstances occurred when they found out that a woman was in labor. They tried to bring her to the hospital. They couldn't do it because trees were blocking the way. They then got a National Guard military vehicle to take this woman to the Emergency Operations Center here in Baldwin County, which is 15 miles inland from us. The woman was experiencing premature labor. As of now, she has not delivered that baby just yet, but she is in good hands at the Emergency Operations Center. Once again, we experienced the eye completely calm. You could have had a picnic outside, and now we're getting the back end of the storm. Carol,
Gary,
back to you.
I was just more curious about that pregnant woman. She didn't evacuate?
Well, no, she evacuated away from the coast. We are right near the coast right now, right near the beach. She was inland. She was in the county, and that was one thing they said. They advised everyone to leave the county. However, they said everyone who lives north of Interstate 10 is safer than south of Interstate 10. We're south of Interstate 10 right now. Now, we're not sure where exactly she is north of Interstate 10 in the county, so she was in a safe area.
Yeah, we're going to lose Gary. I knew we would eventually because of the strong winds. Gary Tuckman reporting from Gulf Shores, Alabama. Let's head to Biloxi, Mississippi now. 300,000 people there were told to move to higher ground. One who didn't, our Susan Candiotti. She's in Biloxi. It looks, well, compared to Gary Tuckman's location, it looks pretty calm.
That's true, but most of the people did follow that mandatory evacuation order, and it's always a smart thing to do because until the very end, really, it's impossible to predict for sure, as you know, Carol, which way the storm might jog at the last minute. So authorities stand by their decision to ask people to move to higher ground. We can tell you a bit of a damage report from this area that covers Biloxi, Gulfport, and areas, communities in this area. At least one bridge has been shut down because of flooding. We can tell you that there has been flooding in low-lying areas and across the road. Trees are down, utility poles are down, and there has been a power outage. According to Mississippi Power, which handles most of the utilities in the southern part of the state across 3 counties, about 40,000 customers have lost power. Now, according to a spokesman, he said things are going smoothly considering the nature and the intensity of the storm. Of course, if you're one of those 40,000 customers, you're not too pleased about having lost power. And as soon as the wind lets up a little bit, they will go out to begin to make assessments. But for now, not quite sure that the winds have let up enough for anyone really to safely get out. The civil defense agencies here tell me that sheriff's deputies have continued their patrols throughout the night. They're the ones that are able to make the damage assessments. For example, part of a hospital roof came off. They've had to put out a house fire. Part of a roof of another business came down. And they're very worried once the curfew is lifted in about 3.5 hours from now. They're worried about people going out to sneak a peek at the damage because, for example, if there is water in the street, they're warning people, be careful. You don't know if there might be a sinkhole underneath that water, if the street might have caved in. There might be some power lines in there that you don't see. So please, please be very careful. Evacuation shelters, about 3,400 people took advantage of those, and unfortunately one of those shelters lost power. So sometimes you can't have it all. And yes, Carol, we did speak with people throughout the day who decided to stay home and ride out the storm. They said that they just thought that their structures, their homes, would be able to see things through. And they had plenty of supplies with them. I saw it, plenty of water, batteries and felt comfortable that they'd be able to make it through. Of course, we'll be checking on them when the sun comes up. Carol?
You know, Susan, we keep hearing about hospitals being damaged, and you would think that patients would have been evacuated from those hospitals. Is that the case in your area?
Yes, in fact, they were, a number of them, at least 200 or more, certainly those who needed to get out of the area, and so they were evacuated. In the meantime, they are staying open, however, for emergency care. I know that we talked to the people who run the ambulance services in this area, and they've been continuing to make their calls and said they could unless there were sustained winds of 65 miles per hour. I know down at the Civil Defense Building, about 4 miles or so from here, they did clock wind gusts of 66 miles per hour. Those are gusts only. And here, I mean, we've had squalls from time to time, but then it lets up. We measured about 30 mile per hour wind gusts here. And so evidently they have been able to continue to make their runs, emergency crews.
Susan Candiotti in Biloxi, Mississippi, thank you very much. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with much more coverage of Hurricane Ivan on Daybreak.
August 24, 1992. Hurricane Andrew devastated southeastern Florida. The Category 5 hurricane flattened the town of Homestead, killing 15 people there and leaving 250,000 others looking for shelter. Andrew was the most expensive natural disaster to ever hit the U.S., doing $26.5 billion in damage. So many Andrew-related claims were filed, nearly a dozen insurance companies went out of business.
Back to Hurricane Ivan now because it has made landfall, still a Category 3 hurricane. Let's check in with Chad for more specifics. Good morning, Chad.
Good morning, Carol. Yes, we do have the eye of the storm now on shore, and you can actually see some of the red zone up there. That's where the most intense rain is actually occurring right now. That intense rain is going to continue just north of Pensacola. I'm going to move to one more little source here so you can actually see the rotation. At 3 o'clock this morning, the eye moved right over Gulf Shores. In fact, right over our Gary Tuckman. He saw the north side of the eye wall, severe winds from the east, and now he's picking up those winds from the west as the eye wall moves around. Remember, this thing is spinning counterclockwise. Some of the highest damage, I'm thinking now, around Orange Beach. Also, just to the west of Pensacola, the Naval Air Station actually stopped reporting wind gusts when their wind gusts to 98. Haven't had another wind gust since then. I'm afraid the sensor may have taken it. Otherwise, scattered rain showers and thunderstorms now for you all the way into the northwestern Florida Panhandle and into Alabama. Your winds are now picking up Alabama, and I don't want to forget about you just because you're not on the beach. The problem is a lot of folks that were on the beach actually evacuated into parts of Alabama, and now you're picking up that squally weather as well. We'll get you now into another source here. This is a source that actually will show you the rotation of some of the storms. This is an animation, so we move one frame into another, and you're noticing these little spins, these little donuts, if you will. Every time the radar here picks up one of those spins, picks up a donut, picks up a shear marker, as we call it, that means that there's a potential there of a tornado. And that happens when you get the rotation running onshore. You get a little bit of drag from the ground. We call it friction. That friction begins to make these storms rotate. We even had one tornado warning for Montgomery County in Alabama, which was significantly farther to the north. I'll walk into the shot here and I can show you there. Actually, they did have a tornado warning up here into Montgomery, and now we have this significant line of storms all the way down even into now western Florida. So we're going to keep that going for the rest of the day. Here's the animation as it keeps on moving from north to south. The entire area from Alabama down to Mobile into Gulfport and Pensacola still now under the gun for more in the way of weather. Here's the Viper system now from just a few minutes ago. Here's where all of the heaviest winds are. Here's Mobile. Mobile on the backside. I'm looking now at the live shot here out of Mobile. I can see it on some of my side monitors. The winds seem to have slowed down. Winds there were almost 95 miles per hour from the north coming around this side. Another thing we haven't talked about yet because there have been no reports, but I'm thinking Pensacola got a significant and is getting a significant storm surge. We talk about that. It could have been 10 to 15 feet. Pensacola is pretty high ground compared to Mobile. There are some at least higher ridges here in Pensacola for folks to get out of. But as this wave action continues to come on shore here from Orange Beach down to Perdido Beach, there's going to be a lot of damage. Folks are going to wake up tomorrow morning and they're not going to recognize the place, I'm afraid, Carol.
I know you mentioned Pensacola in that line of tornadoes. A couple of tornadoes hit in Pensacola, Florida. We talked to Mayor John Fogg a short time ago.
Hours and hours ago, though. I mean, that was like 8 hours ago when the line that's now over Tallahassee was over Panama City.
Right. But he was telling us the damage that occurred because of those tornadoes.
Yeah.
A direct hit on a hospital. We would assume that most of those patients had been evacuated, but we don't know for sure.
Not a lot of times, hospitals are the safe zone. They move people to hospitals.
A lot of times, but we're trying to get him back on the line. He was holed up in his home, of course, trying to get more information.
Sure.
Also, the tornado hit the Civic Center in Pensacola, and that's where they had sent people to be safe. But it didn't take a direct hit, and they moved people to the center of the building, so everybody's okay there. And, of course, Pensacola is now experiencing pounding rain. In Gulf Breeze, Florida, we just talked to the city manager. No electricity there, no water. So if the water comes back on, boil it first before you drink it. Of course, people won't be hearing me anyway. They don't have electricity there. The streets are literally underwater now, and the city manager tells us it's worse than he expected. So he's like not looking forward to daybreak there. Let's head to Okaloosa County, Florida now, in the Fort Walton Beach area. On the phone with us right now is Sandy Launch, an emergency management officer. Good morning.
Good morning.
Tell us the situation there.
Here in Okaloosa County, we have several homes confirmed destroyed. We have 5 businesses in the North County in Crestview that are severely damaged, with one being totally destroyed. We believe that may have been the result of a tornado, but we have not confirmed that as of yet. We have 77,000 homes without electricity right now, and we are still feeling the effects severely.
Is it raining there? Is the wind blowing hard?
It is raining very hard, and we have sustained winds of 57 miles an hour with gusts into the 90s.
We've been hearing from others that the streets are literally underwater and power lines are down, creating a pretty dangerous situation.
That is true. Our Sheriff Charlie Morris, is asking people to remain in their homes until at least noon tomorrow, when we can get crews out to look at the situation. We do not want people to make the situation any worse by getting out there and finding themselves around down power lines, live wires, that kind of thing.
Wow, you want them to stay in their homes until noon tomorrow?
Yes,
I don't know if many people will obey that order.
I certainly hope some of them do, because we have down power lines everywhere, and we do not want to, make the situation any worse by having people injured later on. We want to keep them safe.
No, and there's also a danger of the sinkhole underneath the water, and the street might have collapsed, so you never know what's under there as you're walking down the street in the water.
That is true. You never know what's under there. You never know if there's a power line or something that's going to harm you. So, we are asking people, please stay in your homes. We will get to you as soon as possible.
So how do you handle it as an emergency worker?
We started preparing several days ago. We have been here in the Emergency Operations Center. We are manning a 24-hour citizen line where people are calling us to report what they are seeing. We are monitoring everything as closely as we can. But right now, with the winds the way they are, we cannot send personnel out. So we are hunkered down, just waiting it out till we can go out and really survey the situation.
You mentioned that 24-hour citizen line. What are most people calling in to say?
A variety of things. We have people calling to say the roof has come off, the water is coming in their house, the rain, not storm surge.
Right.
The rain is coming into their house. Can we come get them? Our answer is no, we cannot. We cannot send our personnel out until it is safe for us to do so. So we're just telling people to, go to an interior place in their home, someplace where they can be as best protected as possible. We are getting calls of people reporting, storm surge. We don't have any confirmed numbers yet on our storm surge. We're just getting a variety of calls. People who are afraid, people who just want someone to talk to.
Oh, I can certainly understand that. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak. Sandy Launch, an emergency management officer from Okaloosa County, Florida. Let's head to New Orleans now and check in with John Zarella, where it is indeed calm. Boy, people in New Orleans are lucky.
Breathing a real sigh of relief, Carol, that's for sure. I wanted to point out, listening to the emergency manager there from Okaloosa County, that back a few years ago, we had a Category 1 Hurricane Irene go through Miami, and the dangers of the down power lines you were talking about We had an incident there as the storm went through that several children went out and were playing in the water and were all killed, electrocuted, and their mother went in to try and get them, and she was killed as well. So it is extremely dangerous for anyone to be venturing out after the storm blows through because of that very reason. It obviously can be a deadly, deadly situation. Not so the case here in New Orleans tonight in the early morning hours. This is Decatur Street in the French Quarter. You can see down there, virtually deserted. 2 p.m. yesterday, a curfew went into effect. It remains in effect here until 7 a.m. Central Time. The mayor saying that after that they will most likely lift the curfew, and the folks, the many thousands of people that evacuated the city are expected to start making their way in here again later this afternoon. In Jefferson Parish, they're asking people not to come back until later in the afternoon as they assess what they might have in the terms of damage. But considering what might have happened in this city that is below sea level, had Ivan taken a little more of a left turn and come here, the folks here are absolutely ecstatic as to the results, because this is below sea level. You've got some water on 3 sides, the Gulf of Mexico, Lake Pontchartrain, and the Mississippi River. And in a major hurricane scenario, 3, 4, or 5, this city itself, the entire city, can go under up to 15 to 18 feet of water right here where I'm standing in the French Quarter. Now, we do have a report of some 31,000 homes that were without power. That is way down east, right along the Gulf of Mexico, the very low-lying area. Some reports there also of some flooding. Very hard to determine how serious that is. Not from rain, but from the storm surge, from the backside of the storm sweeping in and bringing in the water. But all in all, just a very, very relieved sense here. The Big Easy is returning to that feeling of calm and ease that they did not have here for the past 36 hours or so as they watched Ivan get closer and closer before it made that turn due north and away from here in New Orleans. Carol.
John Zarella live in New Orleans this morning. Thank you. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with much more on Daybreak.
September 8, 1900, the deadliest natural disaster in U.S. history ravaged Galveston, Texas. The Category 4 hurricane had no name, but would forever be known as the Great Storm. 1 out of every 6 Galveston residents, some 8,000 men, women, and children died. The hurricane's 150-mile-an-hour winds completely wiped out 12 blocks of Galveston, destroying nearly 3/4 of the island city.